Thanks so much for tuning in to Mom Boss Chronicles. My name is Jen.
This is Sue.
And this is Danielle.
We are three moms that work together in real estate and are good friends, and here to talk to you about fun topics, the good, the bad, the ugly of mom struggles, real estate, and other fun stuff. So make sure to subscribe to listen to more.
Hi, guys. Welcome back to our new episode. Very excited to have a guest here with us today. This is Rachel Cuomo. She is a registered dietitian, integrative and functional nutritionist, and she specializes in gastrointestinal disorders and board certified in sports nutrition. She has over 10 years experience, and I am so excited you're here with us today because we've been working together and I've been learning so much from you. So I felt like and I also follow you on Instagram. And you're always sharing such good nuggets of information, especially for us women out there. And for some of us that have hit 40 this year, I think all of the information that you're sharing and your profession is just like vital for us.
Gosh, yeah.
You know, I was even saying to Jen and Danielle before what you share about even like, you know, our different cycles and stuff like that. So first I'm going to start just how did you get into this profession?
Well, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here. And I got into this because I had health issues from the time I was very young. Wow. So I had stomach issues from the time I was like 5 years old. I remember being constipated on the toilet and like all sorts of issues. So that went all through high school, all through college. And
Nobody ever stopped at some point to talk to you about nutrition?
Well, so my dad's a doctor.
Wow.
And my mom is very into like eating healthy. But at that time, like functional nutrition wasn't really a thing.
Right.
So they tried their hardest. They brought me to gastroenterologists. And of course, it was the typical recommendation of, you know, eat more fiber. Or somebody did say low FODMAP, which was like a step in maybe the right direction.
Just real quick, what's FODMAP?
FODMAP stands for different types of carbohydrates that can ferment in the gut.
Okay.
And for certain people who have irritable bowel syndrome, IBS, which is a very umbrella term for gut problems, for those people who have dysbiosis with IBS, it may be helpful, but it's a temporary diet plan. Nobody should be on it long term.
Oh, not long-term fix.
Not a long-term fix.
Yeah.
And for people who have IBS and they don't have dysbiosis, it's not a fix at all. So a lot of practitioners still to this day will recommend the low FODMAP diet to anybody who has IBS just because that's what they know.
Right.
Yeah, that's what they were.
It's like a go-to.
Yeah.
Hand them a list and they say, okay, have fun. You know, the rest of your life you have to restrict these 20 or 30 foods.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I got into it.
Yeah.
You know, and then I met with a very quirky doctor who was ahead of her time. And she started doing all sorts of different kinds of tests. And it really opened my eyes to, wow, there's so much more out there. And through that, I went to school for nutrition and then continued on with functional nutrition.
Did you start to feel better?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Now I can poop normally.
That's good.
That's paid.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. And, you know, like everybody else, I've had my health issues, hormones, stuff.
Right.
And so not only is it, you know, wonderful to know this information for my clients, but for myself
Totally.
as well. And it, you know, inspires me to dig deeper into all the different avenues, not just the gut space.
I mean, I've heard recently, and I feel this, food is medicine, right? Like what putting into our bodies.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And when you look at what the average American eats and the average kid eats.
Oh my gosh, it's scary.
Like my daughter just started kindergarten, just like Michael. And oh my gosh, the food that's in the cafeteria, you know, every day she wants to get the red chips and the ice cream with the dyes.
Yep.
And I try so hard to pack her these healthy lunches, but they're just exposed to
I know.
Right.
It's so hard.
Yeah. I remember my son was little. Like I tried not to even have him have juice, but you go to parties and then other kids have juice or soda. And I'm like, no. And he discovered it. I'm like, damn it.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm very big on, you know, you don't want to restrict too much, of course, because then they have eating disorders or they
I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Right. So, you know, if we go to a party, sure, you have the Capri Sun or whatever, you know. But yeah, from a day-to-day basis, what they're just given at school is just crap.
Yeah.
You know?
And I have found, you know, too, a lot of the recommendations that come down from federally regulated organizations are very wrong, you know, and I think we've been fed such wrong information for such a long time. I mean, I grew up in the era of like, I think my grandfather took me to McDonald's every single day after
the Happy Meal, right? Yeah.
A Happy Meal every day. I mean, I don't know how I'm still living, to be honest with you. I do think that this is a long time, 35 years ago, but over the years, I think there's been just more chemicals put in stuff. You just mentioned the dyes and stuff like that. Yeah. But I think for an average human, you know, especially here in America, like they trust the government, you know, or they trust these companies that are outputting and then they're marketing them as healthy or fat free or this and that, like, education is just out the window, you know, so it's appreciative to have someone like yourself who's like, educating because you're right. Like food is medicine and you're putting all of these processed items in your body. I mean, what's like one of the most common, I don't know, issues you kind of see with some of your clients?
Are we sticking with gut topics?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So I would say a big one is under eating, which a lot of people think under eating, what does that have to do with gut issues, right? But when we under eat, then we don't have enough food moving through us. And so then we actually find that we feel constipated and that can cause bloating and gas.
Wow, go figure, right? So you think I'm under eat and I should feel better.
And a lot of times when we have gut issues, we're afraid to eat. So it's kind of like this double-edged sword, you know? And then also under eating downregulates thyroid hormones. And if your thyroid is sluggish, your digestive tract is going to be sluggish as well. So I see that all the time.
Domino effect.
So do you think, I always hear people, I hear a lot, like, I have a thyroid issue. And sometimes, like, now that I feel like I'm learning a little bit more, I sometimes think to myself, but do you have a thyroid issue or do you have like a food issue?
Yeah.
This is interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of people have kind of this like under the radar cellular thyroid issues that aren't really diagnosed through lab work. It's not to the point where their doctors are going to give them medication necessarily, but it's most likely from years of under consuming, over stressing, maybe over exercising, and just being undernourished, you know? And so the cool thing is you can reverse that naturally. You don't have to go on medications.
Yeah.
And a lot of it comes down to just eating the right amounts of food, you know, and focusing on rest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something interesting. So I feel like probably most of us, I'm constantly eating on the go and just shoving food down my throat as I'm like running out the door. But even in my head, I'm like, okay, well, I'm having like hard boiled eggs or I'm eating, I think, you know, I mean, I
You're
generally
choosing
eat,
something good.
Yeah, healthier options. But, you know, you brought light, you know, to this. You have to sit down and actually chew your food, you know?
Wow.
Yeah.
Something simple like
Not
that.
scarf it.
And, well, and I say something simple, but like, I had to like mentally, you know, be like, okay, Sue, take it. Here's your food. Now sit down and, you know, take your time, you know?
That's a great point. I think that's actually probably... that probably should have been my answer. That is probably the number one thing I see across the board.
Eating too fast?
Is just not taking the time to mindfully eat your food.
So true,
Eating too fast, swallowing food in chunks, you know. We all do it. Moms do it, I think, more than anybody, you know. And yes, 100% that is a huge problem because that then turns into undigested food in the stomach.
Oh, wow.
Which then is going to ferment and cause gas, bloating, and, you know, GI issues. And down the line can even cause overgrowths to occur.
Wow.
So, yeah.
I mean, even just something like that, like I have felt the difference, you know?
Like to take your time to eat. Yeah. I need to do that. Thank you. What a great tip. Right?
It's amazing how when you start to pay attention to that, you keep catching yourself.
Yes.
Yeah.
And like, oh my gosh, I have to like take a minute.
Right.
Take a few deep breaths before you eat, you know, and then just like really concentrate on chewing your food to almost like a baby food consistency.
I like that.
Which sounds kind of disordered eating, but it's really just like at the beginning, you have to kind of teach yourself that, you know, and then over time, it just becomes a natural, you know, thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably get to enjoy your food more because you're actually savoring it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. You feel full sometimes, which is good.
Oh my God, true, right? Because if you go slower, then you're like, wait, I don't need to finish it.
Yeah, I think we've all heard it takes like 20 minutes, you know, for you to actually feel the food in your stomach, right? Most of us are eating in like 5 to 6 minutes.
Yeah.
So,
all right, gotta go. As you're running out the door. Yeah.
And also if you're eating big salads, which a lot of people do trying to be healthy, which is great, those need extra attention because they're fibrous, they're whole. You really have to chew those to break them down. You know, your teeth are your first form of digestion.
Right.
So, yeah.
I didn't think about that. Like, but, you know, the more you know.
Yeah.
Totally.
So kind of switching gears a little bit, you are a mom boss because you are running your own practice. You know, I know that you're available and around for your daughter. You know, is that something, obviously it's important to you, but, you know, like let's say some job opportunity came up, you know, that was like, hey, come work for us, but you're like stuck in a box, you know.
Yep.
not for you, right?
No, man, I've been doing this thing on my own for so long now.
Awesome.
I'm spoiled as can be. And every now and then, I'll have a stressful month in business or something, or like sales will be really, really bad or whatever. And I'll start go, maybe I should do something else.
Right.
Or sometimes I'm just sick of being by myself, And then when I really start to think about what that would mean for my work-life balance and my flexibility, with my child, I just can't pull that trigger.
Oh, it's aligned for you. You're like, that's not aligned for what I want to do.
It's not.
Yeah.
It's not. And, as you guys know, when you run your own business, when you're doing your own thing, when you're passionate about something, you work late nights, you work on weekends, like you're always
On vacation.
Yeah. Like it's always there, but it's your baby.
Right.
And so it's totally different than working for somebody else.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's a different feeling.
Different feeling.
Yeah.
If I had like hey, can you handle this at 10 o'clock at night? I'd be like, fuck off, But for me, last night I was on the computer like, yeah, sure, let's do it again,
Exactly.
Yeah, it does make things feel a lot different. And I think that autonomy, right, of being available for our family and our children and getting to
choose your schedule.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You have to ask for time off, which is great.
Yeah.
The only thing I think is tough, as we were saying when I came in here, this time of year, the sickness that comes in to your house, that makes it a little tough because then I don't have coverage, right?
Oh, yeah.
So if my daughter's sick for a week, then I have to unfortunately call my clients up and say, I'm so sorry. Can we, work this out?
Right.
I think that's the only downfall.
Yeah.
And I'll take it.
Of course. And I'm sure I would like to think your clients are, thoughtful and understanding of that, right?
I would say probably 80% of my clients are moms themselves. And so everybody gets it.
Right.
Everybody's sick this time of the year.
Yeah.
I know.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And like that being said, like this time of year, well, she's dealing with that. Yes.
That's why she's on the Zoom.
Do you find like during this time of year, are there any things that you are doing with your family, like to just try to like get your immune system up and,
Yeah. So I know everybody loves to talk about like taking high dose vitamin D supplements or high dose zinc, high dose vitamin C. Those things can be helpful. Really, I recommend those from food first versus really supplementing a lot.
I love that. Like instead of just taking the pill.
Exactly.
Find food that has it.
100%.
Yeah.
So vitamin C rich foods, lots of citrus, tomatoes, peppers.
Oh, wow.
Those are great things to just incorporate.
Yeah.
And then with vitamin D, we can get that through a supplement, which is okay to do at low doses, but it's actually more of a hormone. There's 2 forms of vitamin D, and the one that's the most useful to our immune system is the one that our body produces. So we really get that from being in the sun.
I didn't realize that it was a hormone.
Yes.
I saw your little quiz and I was like, vitamin, duh. And it's like hormone.
So it was kind of a trick question because there are 2 forms, vitamin and hormone. But the one that is the most useful to us really is the hormone.
Right.
Yeah.
From the sun.
And from the sun. So this time of the year,
It's tough.
I hate the freaking cold, but bundle up, put your face
Go for a walk.
the
Yeah.
sun, get your kids out in the sun. It's like in Europe, they put the babies in the strollers in the sun.
Yeah.
That is the best thing for immune systems and just fresh air.
Yes.
And then on top of that, I know this is annoying, but sleep and stress control.
Oh, yeah.
I know it's not nutrition related, but
Prioritize the sleep.
that's going to help our immune systems the most.
Yeah.
So that's what I'd focus on.
Yeah.
Yep.
I feel like since the time changed,
I
I'm
know.
so tired. And it's like almost 2 months, right?
And the time of year.
Yeah.
It's so early now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was reading something that was saying like in the wintertime, when it's cold, that our bodies do require more rest.
Absolutely.
Maybe, did you tell me that?
Yeah.
Did I read that? Did you tell me that? You probably told me that.
It's totally human nature, right? It's like a time to kind of go inward.
Like
and
bear, hibernate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It feels like
Change. I was asleep at like 8 o'clock every night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Needed it.
But it's important. It's very important. And that's kind of like our cycle. I know you wanted to talk about
Yeah.
that.
Yes.
So, yeah,
Because-
what knowledge you have on that. 'Cause
Yeah. So we can kind of look at our cycle, kind of like the seasons,
Yep.
So there's certain times of the month where it's more of like our winter. And that's typically going to be our luteal or late luteal phase, which is the week before our period.
Okay.
And then our period. And I think most women can relate to that.
Yeah.
Is that when you feel like the most sluggish, you would say?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm
I
there
do.
right now.
Yeah.
I like. Yeah.
Yeah, extra tired. Yeah.
isn't that crazy? So half of the month you have to feel like shit.
Really not fair. No. Not fair. I know those are like our fall and our winter months, you know. So we like want to like kind of turn inward and like wear cozy clothes. Obviously, we all know this. Like not socialize as much, rest. Yep, sleep more. We shouldn't be doing heavy like exercise routines at that point. We should be doing yoga.
I've heard that before, like with exercise people, they're like certain times of the month go hard, certain times of the month take it, do different.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, if you don't listen to that and you just try and do the same
Push
thing
through.
all month long, not only is that horrible for your hormones and how you're going to feel, but you're going to actually see that you can't perform as well during
Right.
right? Which really sucks for like female athletes.
Oh my gosh, yes. An event.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Like that just sucks. But
Yeah, they're like at the Olympics and they have their period.
Right.
That sucks.
Gotta push through. Yeah.
So unfair.
But listen to your body. Is that what you're saying? Right? Like,
Yes.
wow, who would have thought? Listen to your body.
Right. Yeah. Like men are like the same, they have the exact same thing that happens to their hormones, every single day. In the morning, their testosterone's high. At the end of the day, it's low. And
Wow.
it happens over and over and over again. So
We
So
fluctuate.
lucky for them.
Yeah.
Nice for you. Yes. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
So in terms of nutrition too, I guess around that time, should you be eating like differently?
Yeah, so that time, I mean, I look at it a lot from a gut health perspective. We can kind of talk about a few areas, but a lot of people feel bloated at that time, right? A lot of people feel constipated. Your prostaglandins, it's a certain type of inflammatory hormone that's released around your period, which helps with, the contractions of the uterus and everything. If we're eating inflammatory foods, those can actually be overproduced and can cause us to feel worse.
And what types of inflammatory foods?
So inflammatory foods, would be like a lot of processed sugars, a lot of processed oil.
Oh my gosh, so the bad food. Yeah.
Bad food, the things that we crave.
Right, which is so messed up. Total aside, so I went to the dentist yesterday, and the hygienist was like, "Are you getting your period soon?" And I'm like, "How did you know?" She's like, "Your gums are inflamed."
Oh my, and that happens.
Yeah, she's like, "I can tell when people are about." So yeah, it even affects your gums.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard they say like not to get a wax done or whatever.
Really?
Yes, because it hurts more before and after your cycle.
Wow.
Do you know from experience?
Yeah. And my boxer said, don't come before or after your cycle because it will be more painful.
Go figure. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's like same thing with exercise. Like it's gonna like be harder to push up the weight around that time, So you want to eat foods that are warm and comforting, but are also very kind of easy to digest.
Oh,
You don't want to rely on your gut as much at that time.
So work hard. Yeah.
Yeah, so like nice soups and stews and soft cooked vegetables over raw salads at that time.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's all very helpful. And then we want to start to work on raising our progesterone levels usually because progesterone is kind of like the feel-good hormone. And so you can do that through vitamin E and B6.
Okay.
Foods that are rich in those, but a lot of women, especially in our age group, getting into their late 30s, early 40s, could actually use some help with supplementation.
Okay.
Yes. If they do it those 2 weeks, they usually find that their PMS symptoms are a lot
Wow.
Really?
That's
Yeah.
vitamin E
Interesting.
and B6?
Okay.
Yes, vitamin E and B6.
Good news for the store.
Yes. And then there are some people who are really big on the seed cycling bandwagon. I don't know if you guys
No.
No. I am not huge on that. I don't do it too much with clients, but there are practitioners out there who really believe in seed cycling, which is basically consuming sunflower seeds and sesame seeds during your late luteal and your menstrual phase
Okay.
to help with progesterone and everything.
Oh.
And then to consume pumpkin seeds and flax seeds during the first 2 weeks of your cycle. So during like your
Interesting.
follicular and
Yeah.
ovulatory, you can read all about it. It's about a tablespoon of each. You're supposed to do it every day.
Oh, wow.
There are practitioners who think that can really help to
Regulate? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Interesting.
What is your take on dairy? Because I know, I've worked with nutritionists before and they're like, dairy's the enemy, it's inflammatory. So curious your take on that.
It is such a gray area and a weighted topic. It's a great question. So with dairy, my feeling is it's very much the individual and how they respond to the dairy.
Right.
Everybody's going to be different.
Everybody's going to be different. So it's not like with all of my clients, I don't just have a handout that I give them that say avoid.
Right.
Right. So I think it's very individualized. I think it also depends on your inflammation overall as a whole. So if you are pretty uninflamed and you're doing a great job with all of the other areas of nutrition, I think your body is better able to handle.
Right.
Right.
That makes sense.
I've experienced that myself with acne. Once I kind of got my other inflammatory issues under control, I found I could consume more dairy without experiencing a breakout.
Oh, wow.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
Same with digestion. Some people can handle all dairy and others really do have to stick with more of the lower lactose dairy, more of like the hard cheeses. So dairy is a tricky one. I do think overall, when you look at dairy, organic is a really good way to go, and kind of leaning more towards the fermented dairy. You're
Kefir.
Yes. Kefir, yogurt, you're going to get much more benefits from that. It's kind of a different form. Obviously going to really help with your gut.
That's awesome.
Compared to eating a ton of just, cheese all the time.
Yeah. Well,
as much
we talked about like the soft, I love cheese. I just
Love cheese.
Right. But we talked about this, like soft cheeses, when I eat them, makes the eczema on my hands.
Oh, wow.
Get
with that.
out. Yeah. A lot. Very itchy.
So the interesting thing is certain cheeses, they can increase histamine production in the body. And that's a whole nother area that I actually was not even very into. And then I started to have these clients that I could not get to the root cause of their problems. And I started to figure out a lot of them were having these histamine intolerance issues. And eczema is sometimes a sign of that. And so, you might actually be experiencing a bit of a histamine reaction, right, to the cheese. So, and a lot of times the question is why, and that can come down to actually healing the gut lining, and eventually sometimes then those histamine issues go away.
They can resolve.
They can resolve. Yes. Exactly.
What is your take on gluten?
Yes. So gluten is very similar. I run a stool test on a lot of my clients, and it looks at sensitivity to gluten. And there are people like myself, I'm very lucky, who have hardly any sensitivity. And so I tell them, eat the gluten, just go for good forms, see if you can get gluten from Europe. That's usually a little bit less heavily sprayed with glyphosate, or sourdough, things like that. And then there are other people who have extreme sensitivity to gluten, and they see enormous improvements in all aspects of their health when they take it out.
Yeah.
And, it's not to say that those people are celiac. That's completely different. They may not have to worry about cross-contamination. But if I see a high gluten sensitivity on a stool test, then I say, you know what, let's take it out completely for at least a month to 6 weeks, and let's see how you feel doing that.
Yeah.
And then down the line, you can always retest.
Yeah.
Tolerance.
So everybody's different with that too.
Everybody's different with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty cool. And that's why functional testing is so great.
Yeah. Did you?
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And what did you find out for yourself?
What did we find out? I have leaky gut syndrome, but I think what we thought it's from is from eating on the go. Because I mean, in my head, when she said that, I was really shocked because I was under the impression you really only get that when you're taking like antibiotics a lot all the time and stuff like that. But, Rachel explained like sometimes eating quickly and on the go and not chewing your food can cause that, right? Because it ferments.
Yes.
And it's like sitting in your...
Yeah. So, when we're stressed, when we're chronically stressed, and we might not even notice we're stressed. Maybe we're just like always in our masculine and we're always doing. We stop producing digestive secretions. So, our vagal nerve or vagal tone is not there, and we stop making saliva and stomach acid and enzymes. And so then on top of that, then we eat fast and we're not chewing our food. You're really not digesting foods properly. And so then that food's sitting in your gut and it's irritating, the lining, and it could potentially be growing bacteria or yeasts.
Wow.
And over time, that can definitely lead to a leaky gut. Yeah. Which is not a woo-woo term. It's been scientifically proven. By the way.
Are people questioning if that's real or not?
Yes, so I had to say
Oh
that.
my God. That's so crazy.
The correct term is intestinal permeability.
Okay.
And some people think it means you're leaking from your butt. That is also not. That's not what Sue has. Everybody else.
To be clear, I
Thanks for clarifying.
Syndrome.
What does it mean then technically that you are like your...
So basically, the lining of your gut is supposed to be nice and tight. It has these junctions, kind of like these are the junctions. They should be really nice and tight. Over time, if they are attacked or irritated in any way, whether it's from overgrowths or food sensitivities or, allergies or an infection, they start to form gaps. They start to open up. And so that allows for a free flow of toxins and proteins and bacteria out of your intestines and into your bloodstream and into the rest of your body.
Which isn't good, right?
Which is not good.
Yeah.
So not only do you have gut issues, then a lot of times people start to feel systemic problems. So you start to feel headaches.
Were you feeling that?
Yeah. I don't know. Like
I guess you push through it if you were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I just fly through the day
Without thinking, like, wait, what did I feel?
And I don't remember how high yours was either. I'd have to go back and look at what your number was.
Yeah.
You like take care of yourself in so many other ways, like with exercising and eating well, that I'm sure that plays a part in like someone who eats like crap and doesn't exercise with leaky gut will probably, I'm assuming, feel much worse than you, right?
I would think so.
100%. Yeah. And there's levels, of course. So, this test is great because it doesn't just show you, oh, you have leaky gut or, oh, you have a bacteria. It actually shows you the quantity of it,
like the severity.
The severity of it. Exactly. There's a spectrum you look at. So, there are some people who I see, they have the start of a leaky gut, so it's like, okay, let's get this under control before things get bad. And then others are completely through the roof, and they probably have had it for much longer and it's just continued to build over time.
And I guess like when you think about traditional doctors in medicine, if you went to your doctor, I'm sure they would just prescribe something if you said, I have headaches or...
If they solve your problems, they're going to go out of business. So they'll put a Band-Aid on it.
Yeah, without getting to the root cause, like you were saying.
Yes.
Yeah, which food is medicine.
And that's like what root cause nutrition is. So if we have leaky gut, yes, we want to fix the leaky gut with maybe like L-glutamine and zinc and, all sorts of things like that. Take the gluten away. But that's not actually addressing the root cause. You have to actually figure out like what the problem is to begin with. And that's what we're talking about, like with the chewing of the food, and the stress.
Like, why is this coming about? Yeah.
Exactly. Yep. What triggered this to begin with?
So as somebody who deals with, people in nutrition, does it drive you crazy when you hear about fad diets, when people talk about Atkins or paleo or things?
Yes. Well, I don't tell people I'm a dietitian most of the time if I'm like out at a party.
Because then I'm sure they just like pull you in the corner and want to talk forever about.
The interesting thing is most people don't even really want to know your opinion. They just want to talk to you about what new diet they're on.
I know, and how it's making them feel. Like, oh my gosh, I did the low sugar and I feel so good. Yes.
Yes. So I have learned early on, and I think this goes with everything, like don't offer advice unless asked.
Yes. Oh my God, so true.
Right?
Yeah.
Just kind of smile. Okay, that's great for you.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that for you.
Yeah, love it for you. And like truthfully, I think that most diets, aside from like, of course, the really severe, crazy ones, I think most diets have a person that might really work for
respond to it. Yeah.
Somebody might really feel fabulous on the paleo diet. Does that mean that everybody should be on the paleo
or keto or with dairy, like you said, some people are okay with dairy, some are not. And like when everybody was doing keto, I was like, I don't respond to dairy that good. I wouldn't be good on keto. Like,
sure.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, talk about a small amount of foods that you can choose from.
Yeah.
Be completely Yeah.
And hungry.
Yeah.
But that's why, like, I think it is good if you are, experiencing issues. And even if you're not, you're just kind of curious about what's going on, is to do the test. Because it was really educational. I mean, it tested like gut bacteria. I mean, it was a lot. It was
amazing.
A really extensive. We went through this sheet. It was several pages.
And then you have homework?
Essentially, yes.
Then we get our protocol in place.
Right.
So with gut healing, with any healing, usually there's phases, right? So the first phase is typically, at least what I focus on, is calming the gut and clearing out the potential irritants. So called the calm and clear phase. And then once we've done that, then a lot of times we can go in and culture much more heavily if needed. I think a lot of people go wrong where they're heavily culturing before they do the calm and clear phase.
What's the culture?
Culturing is like taking a lot of fermented foods or a ton of probiotics. This test allows us to see, can your gut handle that right now? Does it even need that right now? Sometimes
everybody's different.
It doesn't,
Yeah.
And so I get clients who say, I've been taking all these probiotics and I feel worse.
Oh, yeah.
And it's because maybe they needed to actually calm and clear things before, supplementing.
Yeah. And I feel like probiotics, like such a buzzword, like people.
Totally.
Yeah. But they're all not made the same, I'm sure. And you could,
No, there's lots of different strains, and the test looks at that, which strains you are low in, which ones you're high in, I mean, you could be taking a probiotic and overdosing yourself with a strain that you really don't
need. I would have never thought that.
Yeah, I mean,
absolutely,
especially in the buzzword world of pro and prebiotics, and you think everything is like one size fits all. And my God, it was probably at one point I was probably spending like $100 and something a month on.
Eat sauerkraut.
I love sauerkraut.
So then I guess, would you get retested again and see how she was responding, right?
The gut microbiome, it changes every day.
Wow.
So, I mean, we're constantly being introduced to different bacteria.
And based on what we're eating.
Absolutely. Yeah. So it's always changing, but especially if you have traveled, if you've been
I was going to say, why, when you go away, can you not poop?
What is that?
That used to be a problem of mine. I remember when I was a kid, I went to summer camp for a week and I didn't poop for 7 days.
Wow.
I remember my best friend being in the bathroom with me and I'm like crying.
Oh my God. It hurt. Yes.
Right? And then I came home and I could poop as soon as I came home. Right.
I get terrible stomach issues when I travel.
Yeah. So I will say you can work through that. I could help you all get to the point of pooping when you go away. I mean, some of it's mental, I think. Like, we're not in the comfort of our home.
Right.
Sometimes we're sharing a room with somebody or, and then time change, you add that. Right. And routine change, that can definitely do it, But, simply upping your magnesium citrate while you
That's another buzz. I feel like everybody talks about magnesium, but I'm sure not all magnesium is made the same.
Well, they're different, right?
They're different. Yeah, you guys are so knowledgeable.
Because I've sat at the Target pharmacy aisle, looking magnesium citrate. Like, what do I need? I don't know. And then I get frozen with decision.
Yeah. I mean, there's different ones for different uses. So magnesium citrate's the one that's going to give you the most laxative type effect. So if you are already pooping a lot, you don't need that. Okay. But for most people, at least traveling, it's a great tool. You can start taking that every single day and it really gets things moving out.
That's awesome.
That's going to be my new travel staple for sure.
Yeah. And then obviously other things like digestive bitters, which helps to stimulate stomach acid. And you can implement that when you're traveling, which will help you just break food down so it's not stuck in your gut.
Because that's what's happening. It's just stuck there.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then just motility helpers. So like sipping on ginger tea, that can very much help. Eating raw carrots. So when you go, out to get a salad, find one that has carrots in it, that kind of thing. But you can get over that hump. It's very common. Yeah. Even just packing, prunes and dates with you and munching on them while you travel too can just kind of keep things going.
And how important would you say hydration is? Because my husband yells at me that I don't drink enough water. And then my stomach hurts sometimes. And he's like, you don't drink enough water. And I don't. I'm like, it matters a lot, right?
It does matter a lot. With hydration, though, we have to be careful. We're not over consuming our fluids with our meals because then we dilute out all of those really good secretions.
My God. So there's a good time to drink. And oh my gosh, interesting.
And I know this sounds like you could drive yourself crazy trying to remember all these little things. But, over time, you just try and implement some of these habits. So, drinking more between meals, not quite as much with meals can be helpful. Yeah. And the rule of thumb, kind of all dietitians say, is you take your body weight, you divide that in half, and that's how many ounces a day you need from fluids. So, and everything counts. So tea counts, I don't count coffee. Some people do. Okay. But juice counts, anything liquid-like does count towards that. So it's not that hard usually to get there.
Yeah, I know. I need to focus more on that.
Yeah. Yeah. And then making sure you're getting minerals with that. So, magnesium's a mineral, potassium, sodium. A lot of us need to make sure we're getting a little bit more of that just to support our adrenal glands and to really support the proper hydration in our colon.
Because otherwise, could we flush that out if we're not?
Yes, exactly.
Because I know some people just drink gallons of water, but it's like, is that good for you? Right?
Yeah, that's why people have died in those water drinking.
Yes, right. Like drown themselves?
Well, so they actually dilute out their minerals, so they end up having, I believe it's a heart attack because they don't have the correct minerals to help with the cardiac stuff. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
So, coconut water, I think, is a great thing.
I love coconut water.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, really good.
It makes you feel good, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. I'm on an island. So
yeah. And then adding some, natural sea salts to your foods. I think, in America, we demonize salt so much.
Yeah, we do.
I'm happy it's having a renaissance. I love salt. Yeah. And I've always loved salt.
Like a sea salt good and Himalayan?
Yes, like a real sea salt. Redmond's real sea salt is one that I really like. Okay. Himalayan's great too. You want to avoid table salt.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
Iodized kind,
The cheap one?
Yeah, the cheap one.
Every morning I have lemon water with a sprinkle of salt.
I was going to say, I was told to sprinkle a little in your water. I was like, ew, that's gross. But you don't even taste it if there's enough water in there.
I bet you it tastes better.
I probably do a little bit more than a sprinkle because, again, I love salt.
But does it taste better, right?
It's fine. I mean, I think you just I think if it was just salt water, it would be a little
Weird,
but the lemon makes it okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Altogether.
And if you can't handle that, if anybody's listening and they're like, I can't drink salt, add it to the food that you're eating with your drink. You can totally do that too, like make eggs and over salt those while you're having your lemon water, and now you've done it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you must like margaritas.
I like them with the chipotle salt. Less spice to the salt.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So obviously next week is Christmas and, Hanukkah's just passed. It's been the holidays and people are eating and partying and all that stuff. One, do you find an uptick in your business in the new year? And I'm sure a lot of your clients, you've had to prepare them.
Yes. So this is year 13 of me being a dietitian.
Wow.
So early on in my practice, I would panic every year, this time of the year. Oh my God, I have to go find another job. Like my business is failing, right? And now it is just something I've learned, and I've actually now heard other dietitians and health professionals say the exact same thing. It's just the trend. Nobody wants to see you. This time.
I know.
Right.
They don't want to think about it because they
don't
want to avoid it.
Yes. Scolded, right.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't blame them because most of what I'm going to say is eat the food, enjoy the holidays.
Oh,
Right.
yeah.
You should enjoy the holidays. So business is slow typically December and even January because a lot of times people are like, I need to do things on my own.
Yeah.
Maybe they're checking out gyms, they're kind of figuring it out. And then usually second week in February is when
because bathing suit season's coming.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then business just is packed at that point.
Right.
Yeah. So
that's almost like real estate.
funny.
Yes.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Oh, we're looking for a house right now. There's nothing. I said, let's wait till spring.
Yep.
Yeah, we just had a whole episode on that.
Yeah. I have to listen to that.
I think, hopefully 2024 will be better for everybody.
I'm hoping.
Yeah. We're going to manifest a good house for you. For sure.
It's not easy.
No, it's not, especially in our area. You're currently in Oceanport.
Yes.
I think you probably want to stay in Oceanport, right?
Yeah. So it's, it's hard when you're looking at this teeny tiny
I know,
little
price
Right.
points.
spot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know. That was
I'm
small.
being so picky.
I know.
I'm it needs to be in a neighborhood. It needs to be in this neighborhood.
Right.
And the inventory's low, so
Yep.
things don't come up often. I know.
Yeah. It's fine.
It'll
Everything
work
will
out.
To make friends with the neighbors, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know.
So
They're
they
in the
get some
know.
Insight.
Yeah.
So Jim down the street, I think.
Word on the block.
Right.
Yeah.
Just knocking on the hey.
Actually,
hi.
I dropped little notes in all mailboxes recently.
Yeah.
Like a crazy person.
No, that's
Do what
not
you gotta
crazy.
do.
You really have to
Yeah.
get creative.
Because otherwise, these flippers are coming in
Yeah.
under the radar, scooping up these homes before they even hit the market,
Yeah.
and then flipping them for way more money than
Right.
I can afford.
I've definitely been seeing that a lot in Oceanport.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really mad with the flippers.
Yeah. Flip them off.
Leave some house for the rest of them.
Right. Oh gosh. Last thing I wanted to bring up too. I mean, obviously, gut health, food, but you work out, and one of the things you do is you lift.
Yes.
And we had one of my old coaches from the gym, Vin, was on a couple months ago. But just to reiterate, and to hear it from a woman as well,
Yes.
she lifts heavy.
Strength training?
Yes, that's
Yeah.
she
It's
lifts
important
heavy.
for your
It's
body.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's very important. So I will say I used to lift more heavy. I have a herniated disc that I've been babying for 9 months.
Oh.
So I've lost 6 pounds of muscle mass.
Yeah.
So I don't look quite as muscular as I would like to. But generally, yes, weightlifting is top priority for women. If you just want to obviously feel strong and be able to defend yourself, which I think is extremely important in this day and
Yes.
age, you need to be weightlifting.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then, on top of that, when you weightlift, you're really boosting your metabolic rate for 24 hours after weightlifting.
Oh, wow.
So you're burning hotter when you're sleeping, sitting, resting. When you do cardio, you burn what you burn, and then your metabolic rate goes right back to where it was before. So it's just a great way to boost that metabolism, allows you to eat more, which I think everybody enjoys, and also it doesn't stress out your adrenals and your thyroid as much as long, intense cardio sessions.
Oh,
would.
yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that endurance that, people.
Yeah.
And interesting because we were talking about earlier, look at your time of month.
Yes.
Go strong with the weightlifting at certain times and then.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. So, when you are late luteal into period, you're going to start to feel like, oh, I don't want to work out, right? Don't, or just
listen to your body.
Do like a warm yoga class or something. Listen to your body. And then typically for most women, it's like usually right when we get our period or about like 3 days after that we start to get that boost in energy levels again. And that's when you can start to return to the weightlifting. And then right around ovulation is when we're all feeling like fierce and strong.
Yes.
And that's when you can do
Warrior.
Yeah. Like, I can
Push
do
yourself,
anything,
right? Yeah.
And that's when you want to really be like throwing the weights around.
Yeah.
Safely, obviously. Disc. And all that good stuff, And that's also when you should be doing, any sort of like big things with work. Like Sue asked me when I wanted to come on here and like, this is my follicular ovulation.
That's amazing.
Feeling good.
Consulting calendar. Yeah.
Exactly.
Like, definitely not last week.
Yeah.
I've been really boring to listen to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so true, though. I think, like, as I started to pay attention more to my cycle and how I, just having self-awareness at the different, times. Like, even today I did EYS combat, and I was like,
No, you weren't into
like,
it.
Yeah, no, like mentally, yes, but physically, I was just like,
Totally.
oh God, So like, I think I signed up for EYS tomorrow, but I'm gonna switch that to yoga. It's like it's okay. We've hit that mark, and like giving yourself grace, right? Like that's okay. Oh my gosh, like sometimes you need people to kind of bring that to light.
Yeah, and it feels really good to finally say that to yourself. Like, you know what? This is fine. I can take a break.
Yeah.
It's what my body needs.
Honoring your body.
Right.
Yeah.
And when you mentioned too that during this time that your body does actually need more food, and that's why you're so hungry. I was like, oh, that makes me feel a little
Right. Me too. You just want to like curl up on the couch and
totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody like is always trying to fight those cravings and like ignore that hunger the week before the period, and we're burning hotter. We need more calories at that time, and our blood sugar is more wonky at that time as well. There's more stress hormones, being produced, and we tend to find that we need to have heartier meals throughout that window. So you should late luteal phase, you should always be having a protein, a carb, and a fat at your meals. And then, snacks, the same thing, like a good protein, a good carb, maybe even a little bit of fat. Feed yourself. And then what you'll find is you are less likely to crave the ice cream at night or like all the chocolate at night because you are really well fed.
right.
Yeah.
And if you want those things, fine, but you're not going to eat them in extreme amounts.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, totally. And even like real quick, I was going to say like just since we started working together and like talking about the diet for the day, like I don't feel as hungry. I feel satiated.
That's awesome because you're eating the right food for you.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
I do have one more question. Anything that you can say on sugar that we should know as women? Avoid it? I don't know. Right? That's such a hard thing to avoid. Apparently, I found out sugar's in pasta sauce. Like, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh my God.
Yeah. So I always like to focus with everybody on what you can include more of. I like to have more of like an abundance mentality versus a restriction mentality. When I first started out in, the business, of course, I was like, sugar's, addicting, and because that's what we're taught. And then you grow and you look back and you're like, holy moly, I would have punched myself in the face now if I was looking back. So really, if you can focus on getting 30 grams of protein at every meal, getting fiber from real fruits and vegetables, throughout the day, getting healthy amounts of fat at every single meal, and eating, around every 3 to 4 hours to keep that blood sugar stable.
So not starving yourself?
Not starving yourself. And stress is a big one too. If you can focus on all of that, the processed sugars, honestly, they just naturally kind of get kicked out of the diet because you are just nourishing your body appropriately. And then when you do have the processed sugars, it doesn't really matter because you're having it usually along with something like protein or fat that's keeping it balanced.
That's awesome. Yeah.
So that's really the way I would look at it.
So you don't have to like run for the hills for a minute. Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying like drink, soda on a regular basis.
Or have chocolate bars every day. Yeah.
100%. But I don't think we need to demonize sugar as much as we have in the past.
Yeah.
Like I fully intend on baking regular Christmas cookies this week with the sugar and the flour and the
love
butter
that.
and eating it and
enjoying it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
It's so good to hear that.
and that's what everyone everyone should be doing, but then also don't skip your regular meals.
Yes, and eat balanced the other times.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of women, especially in the holidays, they're like, well, I want the cookies, so I'm just going to skip lunch today.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah.
And it's sad.
Because I think it's that mentality to the calories.
Right.
Well, I'm sacrificing the calories from earlier and I will eat all my calories in one sitting later.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. It's how we grew up, between the magazines and I think our parents and our moms. It's kind of what was ingrained in us. And instead it should be, let me really, really nourish myself. And then if I still want to have a treat, cool, I'm nourished and I can have a cookie and move on with my day.
Yeah.
And
feel like you didn't deny yourself,
Absolutely.
Yeah. Right.
I love those butter cookies with the little, like, powdered sugar and the walnuts.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
My mom actually made them really, really good.
Oh,
Yeah. They're so good. Well, thank you so much for coming on today. Obviously, we're going to link all of your...
Where can we find you? You're on Instagram?
I'm on Instagram, Bodhi.nutrition. It's spelled BODHI.
Okay. .nutrition.
Nutrition. And on there, the little link in my Instagram is where you can find everything else that I have. So I'm launching a masterclass soon on healing your gut.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, so the wait list is on there.
Yeah.
And working with me on one-on-one, you can apply through that link as
That's
well.
amazing. Definitely going to follow you.
Yes. Yeah. We'll link all of that stuff too, because if you've been thinking about it, or if you're experiencing, gut issues, or just want to be educated, I'm telling you, this is money well spent. So yeah, for sure. Seriously, like hire professionals.
You only get one body.
Right.
Yes, you gotta treat it good. Yeah.
It's true. Yeah. And also, last thing I'm going to say is, it's obviously an investment, when you hire any professional, but you think about how much money and time and frustration we all waste trying to figure things out on our own. I know I've hired professionals for different things. It's just so much easier to hand it over to somebody who does it every day.
Yeah, who's knowledgeable.
It takes the stress off, right?
Yeah.
And you can get to feeling better so much faster.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, of course. And thank you guys for joining us again. We'll see you next week.